Hello there. There is something about the human body that is both deeply familiar and quietly terrifying. Not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a way that settles into your mind, slowly, heavily, almost like a whisper you cannot ignore. Because right now, as you listen, there are trillions of cells inside you, working in perfect silence. Your heart is beating without asking. Your lungs are breathing without permission. Your brain is thinking even when you try not to. And the unsettling truth is, you are not in control of most of it. You exist because something inside you refuses to stop. A system so complex, so precise, that even the slightest imbalance could change everything. And yet, continues, calmly, relentlessly, perfectly, every second of your life. Tonight, you are going to explore it. Not the surface, not the obvious, but the hidden truths, the quiet processes, the strange and fascinating realities that are happening inside you right now without you ever noticing. The kind of truths that make you pause, the kind that make you feel small and powerful at the same time. So, as you begin to relax, as your body starts to slow, and your mind begins to drift, I want you to stay with me, because what you are about to hear will not just help you fall asleep, it will change the way you feel about being alive. And if this kind of deep, calming exploration is something you want more of, take a moment, gently, without breaking this calm, to subscribe to the channel. And if this video brings you even a little sense of stillness, leave a like, not for me, but as a quiet signal that you want more of this, more calm, more depth, more understanding. Now, let everything soften, let your thoughts slow, and step quietly into the hidden world within you. Chapter 1. The Silent Symphony Beneath Your Skin. Hello there. Tonight, as you settle into stillness, there is something quietly remarkable happening. Something so constant, so effortless, that it almost disappears from your awareness. Your body is not silent. It is a symphony, not loud, not chaotic, but steady, rhythmic, and deeply precise. A performance that began before you were born and will continue without pause until your very last breath. And perhaps the most fascinating part is that you don't have to think about any of it. Right now, your heart is beating. Not dramatically, not forcefully, but with a calm, reliable rhythm. On average, it beats around 100,000 times every single day. That means, from the moment you wake to the moment you drift into sleep, your heart will quietly push thousands of liters of blood through a vast network of vessels. And if you could stretch those blood vessels out, every artery, every vein, every capillary, they would extend for nearly 100,000 kilometers, enough to circle the Earth more than twice. And yet all of that is contained within you. Now, as your heart moves blood, your lungs are working just as tirelessly, but more gently. Each breath you take delivers oxygen to trillions of cells and removes carbon dioxide just as efficiently. You take around 20,000 breaths every day. But here's something subtle, something most people never notice. You don't breathe evenly. Your body adjusts your breathing constantly, slowing when you relax, deepening when you sleep, shifting almost imperceptibly depending on your thoughts, your posture, even your emotions. It is a quiet conversation between your brain and your body, one that never stops. And then there is your skin. It may seem like a simple outer layer, but it is, in truth, one of the most complex organs you have. Your skin is constantly renewing itself. Every minute, you shed around 30,000 to 40,000 dead skin cells. Over time, this adds up to kilograms of skin quietly drifting away, replaced without you ever noticing. And within your skin are millions of tiny sensors, detecting temperature, pressure, pain, and subtle changes in your environment. It is your first line of awareness, your boundary with the world. Beneath that skin, something even more remarkable unfolds. Your muscles. There are over 600 muscles in your body, and even in moments of complete stillness, many of them remain slightly active, maintaining posture, stabilizing joints, keeping you balanced without conscious effort. And here's something fascinating. Even when you think you are perfectly still, your body is making thousands of micro-adjustments every second. Tiny, invisible movements, keeping you upright, aligned, and steady. You are never truly motionless. And then, deeper still, your bones, often imagined as rigid, lifeless structures, but in reality, they are alive. Your bones are constantly breaking down and rebuilding themselves. This process, called remodeling, ensures that your skeleton remains strong, adaptable, and responsive to stress. In fact, your entire skeleton is replaced roughly every 10 years. You are, quite literally, a slowly changing structure. And inside those bones, something quietly vital is happening. Your bone marrow is producing blood cells, millions of them every second. Red blood cells carrying oxygen. White blood cells defending against unseen threats. Platelets repairing damage before you even realize it exists. It is a factory, hidden deep within you, working endlessly. Now consider this. At any given moment, your body contains around 37 trillion cells. Each one alive, each one performing its own specific task, each one communicating with others through chemical signals and electrical impulses. If even a small number of these cells stopped functioning properly, you would notice. But most of the time, they don't. They continue quietly, faithfully, without interruption. And then there is your digestive system. Even when you are not eating, it is active. Your stomach lining replaces itself every few days, protecting you from the powerful acids it produces. Those acids are strong enough to break down food efficiently. Yet your body ensures they never harm you. And your intestines, stretching several meters in length, are constantly absorbing nutrients, processing waste, and interacting with trillions of bacteria. Yes, a bacteria. Your body contains more bacterial cells than human cells. Not all of them harmful. In fact, many are essential. They help digest food, produce vitamins, and even influence your mood in ways scientists are still beginning to understand. You are not just one organism. You are an ecosystem. Now, as all of this unfolds, something else is happening. Something faster than almost anything else in your body. Your nervous system. Electrical signals are traveling along your nerves at speeds of up to 120 meters per second. That means the moment you touch something, feel something, react to something, your body has already processed it, almost instantly. But here's the quiet truth. Most of these signals never reach your conscious awareness. Your body filters, prioritizes, and decides what you need to notice and what you don't. Without that filtering, the world would feel overwhelming. And finally, there is your temperature. Your body maintains a stable internal temperature around 37 degrees Celsius. Even when the environment changes, even when you move, rest, or sleep, your body adjusts. It sweats to cool down. It shivers to generate heat. It redirects blood flow, subtly, constantly, to keep everything balanced. You rarely notice it, but it is always happening. And as you lie there, or sit quietly, listening to this, all of these processes continue. Your heart beats, your lungs breathe, your cells divide, your skin renews, your nerves fire, your body carries on. Not loudly, not urgently, but steadily, calmly, like a quiet symphony, playing beneath your skin. And perhaps, for the first time, you can begin to hear it. And as that quiet symphony continues, there are even deeper layers to notice, processes so subtle, so refined, that they almost feel like whispers beneath the surface of your awareness. Consider, for a moment, your liver. It does not announce itself. It does not demand attention. And yet, it is one of the hardest working organs you have. At any given time, your liver is performing over 500 different functions, filtering toxins, processing nutrients, producing proteins, and regulating the chemical balance of your blood. Everything you eat, everything you drink, everything your body absorbs, eventually passes through this silent guardian. And what is remarkable is its resilience. The liver is one of the only organs capable of regenerating itself. Even if a large portion is damaged or removed, it can grow back, restoring its function with quiet determination. It is not dramatic. It is not visible, but it is extraordinary. Now shift your awareness slightly to your kidneys. Two small, bean-shaped organs, tucked neatly in your lower back. Every single day, your kidneys filter around 150 liters of blood. They remove waste, balance fluids, regulate electrolytes, and even help control your blood pressure. And they do this continuously, without pause, without recognition. They decide moment by moment what your body should keep and what it should let go. And in doing so, they maintain a delicate balance, one that keeps everything within you stable. Then there is something even more subtle, something that flows through you in ways you rarely consider. Your lymphatic system. Unlike your blood vessels, this system does not have a central pump like the heart. Instead, it relies on movement, on gentle shifts in your body to circulate lymph fluid. This fluid carries immune cells, removes waste, and helps protect you from infection. It is slower, quieter, but no less essential. And perhaps the most fascinating part is that every time you move, even slightly, you are helping this system function. Even now, small adjustments in your body are keeping it active. Now, let your attention drift to something even more delicate. Your eyes. They move constantly, even when you believe you are staring at something still. Tiny, rapid movements called saccades allow your brain to build a complete picture of the world around you. Without these movements, your vision would fade. Your brain depends on change, on motion to perceive clarity. And even when you close your eyes, your visual system does not fully rest. It continues to process, to imagine, to construct images from memory and thought. Which brings us gently to your brain. Though we will explore it more deeply later, there is something important to notice here. Your brain uses about 20% of your body's total energy, despite making up only around 2% of your body weight. It is constantly active, even in moments of stillness. And here is something quietly astonishing. Your brain generates enough electrical activity to power a small light bulb. Not in bursts, not occasionally, but continuously. A soft, constant glow of activity, illuminating your thoughts, your sensations, your awareness. Now imagine this. Within your brain are approximately 86 billion neurons, each one capable of forming thousands of connections. Together, they create a network so complex that it surpasses any known system in the universe. And yet, it all feels effortless. You think, you feel, you remember, without ever needing to understand how it all works. Now, as your brain and body communicate, there is another system working quietly in the background, balancing everything. Your endocrine system. This is your body's chemical messaging system, made up of glands that release hormones into your bloodstream. These hormones travel slowly, compared to nerve signals, but their effects are deep and lasting. They regulate your sleep, your hunger, your mood, your growth, even your sense of calm or stress. And often you are not aware of their influence, but they shape your experience in ways that feel natural, seamless. Now consider something even more subtle. Your sense of time feels steady, consistent, but your body experiences time in rhythms. Your circadian rhythm, for example, follows a roughly 24-hour cycle, guiding when you feel awake, when you feel tired, when your body releases certain hormones, and when it begins to prepare for rest. Even if you ignore it, even if you stay awake late or wake early, your body continues to follow its internal clock, quietly, persistently guiding you back toward balance. And then, there is something almost poetic. Your heartbeat and your breath are connected. When you inhale, your heart rate slightly increases. When you exhale, it slows down. This natural variation is called respiratory sinus arrhythmia, and it reflects the harmony between your heart and your lungs. A rhythm within a rhythm, a subtle dance, happening with every breath you take. Now, as all of these systems work together, something else is happening. Something so constant that it becomes invisible. Repair. Your body is always repairing itself. Tiny injuries in your tissues are being fixed. Cells that are damaged are being replaced. DNA errors are being corrected. Even as you rest, your body is quietly healing. And perhaps most fascinating of all, you are never the same person, physically, from one moment to the next. Cells die. Cells are born. Structures change. Molecules shift. You are a continuous process, rather than a fixed form. And yet, you feel like one stable, unchanging self. Now, as this thought settles, notice how everything continues. Your heart, steady. Your breath, gentle, steady, and completely alive. Chapter 2. The brain that never truly sleeps. As your body rests, as your muscles soften and your breathing slows, there is one part of you that never truly drifts into silence. Your brain. It does not switch off. It does not power down. Instead, it changes its rhythm. Right now, even as you sit or lie still, billions of neurons inside your brain are exchanging signals. Tiny electrical pulses, flashing back and forth in patterns so complex they almost resemble a living constellation. And what's remarkable is that much of this activity has nothing to do with the outside world. Even in complete darkness, even in silence, your brain remains deeply, endlessly active. Consider this. When you close your eyes, you might imagine that your brain is resting. But in truth, certain parts of it become even more active than when you are awake and focused. There is a network called the default mode network, a system that comes alive when you are not concentrating on a task. It is responsible for daydreaming, reflecting, remembering, imagining. It is the quiet storyteller in your mind. And it never truly stops. Now let's drift deeper. Inside your brain, neurons communicate using both electricity and chemistry. When one neuron fires, it releases neurotransmitters, tiny chemical messengers that cross microscopic gaps called synapses. There are trillions of these connections. Each thought you have, each sensation you feel, is the result of these signals moving in intricate patterns. And here's something quietly astonishing. Your brain processes information faster than any computer ever built. But it doesn't feel fast. Feels natural, seamless, because all of that speed is hidden beneath your awareness. Now imagine this. If you were to map all the connections in a single human brain, it would be more complex than the entire internet. Not just in size, but in adaptability. Because your brain is not fixed. It is constantly changing. This ability is called neuroplasticity. Every time you learn something new, every time you experience something, your brain rewires itself. Connections strengthen. Others fade. New pathways form. You are quite literally reshaping your brain with every passing moment. And yet, it feels like continuity. Like you are the same person you were yesterday. Now, as your thoughts gently drift, there is another process unfolding. Your brain is filtering reality. At any given moment, your senses are taking in far more information than you could ever consciously handle. The light in the room, the pressure of your clothes, distant sounds, subtle smells. It is all there. But your brain decides what to bring into your awareness and what to quietly ignore. Without this filtering, the world would feel overwhelming, too detailed, too intense. So your brain simplifies it, creates a version of reality that feels manageable. And in doing so, it shapes your experience of the world. Now consider memory. It may feel like your memories are stored somewhere, like files in a cabinet. But that is not how it works. Every time you recall a memory, your brain reconstructs it. It pieces it together from fragments, from patterns of neural activity. Which means your memories are not perfectly fixed. They are gently changing each time you revisit them. Subtle shifts, small adjustments, influenced by your current thoughts, your emotions, your perspective. You are not just remembering the past. You are quietly rewriting it. Now, let your attention soften even further, because something even more fascinating is happening. Your brain is predicting the future, not in a conscious, deliberate way, but constantly, automatically. It uses past experiences to anticipate what might happen next. This is why familiar places feel comfortable, why unexpected sounds startle you, why certain smells bring back emotions you didn't even know were still there. Your brain is always preparing, always forecasting, always trying to keep you one step ahead. And yet, it does this so smoothly that you rarely notice. Now, as we move deeper into this quiet awareness, think about your sense of self. That feeling of being you feels stable, consistent, but in reality, it is something your brain constructs. There is no single location in your brain where you exist. Instead, your sense of identity emerges from the interaction of many different regions, your memories, your emotions, your perceptions, your internal dialogue. It is a process, a continuous unfolding. And here is something quietly profound. Even when you are not thinking about yourself, even when your mind drifts, that sense of self remains, like a soft background presence, always there. Now, as your body continues to relax, your brain is also managing something else, something essential to your survival. balance. Not just physical balance, but emotional balance. There are systems in your brain constantly regulating your mood, adjusting levels of neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. These chemicals influence how you feel, how you respond, how you experience the world. And often, these shifts happen beneath your awareness. A subtle change in chemistry, and your entire perspective can shift. Now imagine this. Your brain has no pain receptors, cannot feel pain itself, and yet, it is the organ responsible for interpreting all pain in your body, creates the experience. It decides the intensity. It gives meaning to sensation, which means even something as physical as pain is shaped by your brain's interpretation. Now, as we drift further, there is something else your brain does, something deeply connected to sleep. Cleans itself. During sleep, a system called the glymphatic system becomes more active. It clears away waste products that accumulate during the day, proteins, toxins, byproducts of neural activity. It is like a quiet night shift, restoring balance, preparing your brain for another day. And this process is far more efficient when you are asleep, which is why sleep feels so essential, not just for rest, but for renewal. Now, as all of this unfolds, your brain continues its silent work, processing, filtering, adapting, predicting, and even now, as you listen to these words, it is weaving them into patterns, creating meaning, shaping understanding, effortlessly, naturally, without strain, because this is what it does, endlessly, quietly, a mind that never truly sleeps. As your awareness softens, there is something quietly fascinating about the way your brain moves between states. Not sharply, not abruptly, but gradually, like dimming light. When you begin to relax, your brain waves begin to slow. During wakefulness, your brain produces what are called beta waves, fast, active, alert. But as you settle, these shift into alpha waves, softer, calmer, often present when your eyes are closed and your thoughts begin to drift. And then, as sleep approaches, something deeper begins. Theta waves. These are the waves of early sleep, but also of imagination. This is the state where thoughts become less structured, where fragments of memory, sensation, and emotion begin to blend together. And sometimes, in this gentle space, you may notice something strange. A fleeting image, a sudden idea, a voice that isn't quite a thought, and not quite a dream. This is your brain transitioning, not switching off, but changing modes. And eventually, if you continue drifting, your brain enters deep sleep. Delta waves. Slow, powerful, restorative. This is the state where your body repairs itself most deeply, where growth hormones are released, where energy is restored. But even here, your brain is not inactive. It is simply quieter. Now, consider something even more intriguing. While you sleep, your brain remains highly selective about what it responds to. A loud, unfamiliar noise might wake you instantly, but a familiar sound, like a fan or distant traffic, fades into the background. And even more interesting, a parent can sleep through many sounds, but wake instantly at the faintest cry of their child. Your brain, even in sleep, is listening, not to everything, but to what matters. Now, drifting further into this quiet awareness, there is something else your brain does, something deeply tied to how you experience the world. It fills in gaps. Your vision, for example, has a blind spot, a small area where your optic nerve connects to your eye. There are no photoreceptors there, which means there is a tiny part of your visual field that you cannot actually see. And yet, you never notice it, because your brain fills it in seamlessly using surrounding information. It does this constantly, and not just in vision, but in sound, touch, and perception. Your experience of reality is not a perfect recording. It is a carefully constructed interpretation. And here is the strange part, which is why dreams often feel intense, but not entirely logical. And yet, while you are inside them, they make sense. Your brain accepts them fully. Now, let your thoughts drift even deeper, because there is something else quietly happening inside your mind. Your brain is constantly pruning itself. Not all connections are kept, and used pathways weaken and fade, while frequently used ones strengthen. This process allows your brain to remain efficient, adaptable, focused. It is why practice makes things easier, why repetition builds skill, why certain habits become automatic. Your brain is shaping itself based on what you do and what you repeat. Now consider attention. Feels like you are aware of everything around you, but in truth, your attention is incredibly limited. You can only focus on a small amount of information at once. Everything else fades into the background, and your brain decides, often without you realizing, what deserves that focus. This is why you can suddenly notice something that was always there. Once your attention shifts, the information didn't appear. Your awareness simply moved. Now, as your breathing slows, there is another quiet function your brain performs. Protects you from overload. If you were constantly aware of every heartbeat, every signal, every internal process, it would be overwhelming. So your brain keeps most of it hidden, only bringing forward what is necessary. Pain, urgency, change. Everything else continues quietly beneath awareness. Now imagine this. Even your sense of control is not as direct as it feels. Many of your actions begin in the brain before you are consciously aware of deciding them. Experiments have shown that neural activity related to a decision can occur milliseconds before you consciously choose, which suggests something subtle. Your brain is already moving before you notice, and your awareness is catching up. Not in a way that removes control, but in a way that reveals how seamless the process really is. Now, as your mind gently settles, there is something deeply calming about all of this. You do not need to manage your thoughts perfectly. You do not need to control every process, because your brain is already doing so much on its own. Filtering, predicting, repairing, adapting. Even now, as you listen, your brain is deciding which words to hold on to and which to let drift away. And perhaps it begins to choose calm, to choose stillness, to allow thoughts to soften and space to grow between them, because your brain knows how to move toward rest, not by force, but by rhythm, by slowing, by letting go piece by piece. And as that happens, the activity doesn't stop. It simply becomes quieter, softer, like distant waves fading into the background. A mind that never truly sleeps, but knows exactly how to rest. Chapter 3: Blood, Bones, and the Architecture of Life. There is a structure within you, so familiar, that it almost disappears from your awareness. It holds you upright. It gives shape to your body, protects what is most delicate. And yet, it is not still. It is not fixed. It is alive. Your skeleton. At first glance, bones seem rigid, unmoving, permanent. But in truth, they are constantly changing. Every moment, your bones are engaged in a quiet cycle, breaking down old tissue and rebuilding new. Cells called osteoclasts dissolve tiny sections of bone, while osteoblasts rebuild them. A slow, careful balance. And over time, this process replaces nearly your entire skeleton. You are not carrying the same bones you had years ago. They have been renewed piece by piece without you ever noticing. Now consider their strength. Bone is incredibly resilient. Ounce for ounce, it is stronger than steel. A small piece of bone can withstand immense pressure, far more than it appears capable of. And yet, it is also light, structured in a way that maximizes strength while minimizing weight. A perfect balance of support and efficiency. Inside these bones, something even more essential is happening. Your bone marrow is constantly producing blood cells, millions every second. Red blood cells carrying oxygen. White blood cells defending against threats. Platelets repairing damage. All of this created deep within your skeleton. A hidden workshop working endlessly. Now let your awareness drift into your blood. It moves quietly, continuously, through an intricate network of vessels. At any given moment, about 5 liters of blood are circulating through your body. And each drop is filled with life. Red blood cells alone number in the trillions, each one shaped like a tiny disc, optimized to carry oxygen efficiently. And what's remarkable, they have no nucleus, no DNA. They are designed entirely for one purpose: transport. They live for about 120 days, and then they are replaced. Constant renewal. Now imagine this. If you could follow a single red blood cell, it would travel your entire body in about a minute. A continuous loop, heart to lungs, lungs to tissues, and back again. Over and over. Without pause. Without rest. Now, your blood is not just a transport system. It is also a communicator. Hormones travel through it. Signals move through it. Messages are delivered from one part of your body to another, silently, efficiently. And it is also a defender. White blood cells move through your bloodstream, constantly searching for anything unfamiliar. Bacteria, viruses, anything that does not belong. And when they find something, they respond, not loudly, but precisely. Now, as your blood flows, your heart continues its steady rhythm. A muscle, about the size of your fist, beating over and over without fatigue, from before you were born to the very end of your life. And here is something quietly astonishing. Your heart creates its own electrical signals. It does not need constant instruction from your brain to beat. It has its own rhythm, its own timing, its own quiet intelligence. Now imagine this. Each beat of your heart pushes blood through your entire body. And over the course of a single day, it generates enough force to move a truck several kilometers. But you never feel that force, because it is controlled, measured, balanced. Now, as your awareness settles deeper, consider your joints, the places where bones meet. They allow movement, flexibility, range. But they are not simply hinges. They are complex structures filled with cartilage, fluid, and connective tissue. Cartilage cushions your bones, preventing friction. Synovial fluid lubricates movement, allowing smooth motion. and ligaments hold everything together, providing stability. Even the smallest movement you make involves a coordinated effort between muscles, bones, and joints. Nothing happens in isolation. Everything is connected. Now, let your attention move to your muscles. Over 600 of them working in harmony. Some are large, responsible for movement you can see. Others are small, stabilizing, adjusting, fine-tuning. And many you never consciously control. Your heart is a muscle. Your digestive system, lined with smooth muscles that move food along without your awareness. Even your blood vessels can expand and contract, adjusting flow as needed. Your body is constantly in motion, even when you feel still. Now consider this. Muscles work in pairs. When one contracts, another relaxes. This allows for controlled movement, balance, precision. Without this coordination, movement would be chaotic. Now, drifting deeper into this quiet awareness, there is something else to notice. Your body is incredibly efficient at repair. If a bone breaks, it does not simply heal. It rebuilds itself. Cells gather at the site, forming a structure called a callus, which gradually hardens into new bone. And often, the healed area becomes even stronger than before. Your body does not just restore, it reinforces. Now imagine this. Every time you move, even slightly, your bones respond. They sense stress, pressure, load, and they adapt, becoming stronger where needed, lighter where not. Your skeleton is not passive. It is responsive. Now, as your breath slows, consider your blood again. Carries not just oxygen, but heat. It helps regulate your body temperature, distributing warmth, maintaining balance. When you are cold, blood flow shifts. When you are warm, it adjusts again. Constant calibration. Now, something even more subtle. Your blood has a memory, not in the way your brain does, but in its immune system. When your body encounters a pathogen, it learns, it remembers, and if that same pathogen appears again, your response is faster, stronger, more precise. You become more prepared. Now, as all of this unfolds, your body continues its quiet work. Bones renewing, blood flowing, muscles adjusting, joints supporting, all in perfect coordination. And perhaps the most remarkable part is that you do not need to think about any of it. It happens automatically, seamlessly, like a structure built not just of matter, but of rhythm, of balance, of life moving through form. Beneath the quiet strength of your bones and the steady flow of your blood, there is an even deeper sense of design at work. Not rigid, not mechanical, but adaptive, responsive, almost aware in its own way. Consider for a moment how your body handles something as simple as standing up. It feels effortless. You shift your weight, your muscles engage, your posture adjusts. But beneath that simplicity, your body is performing a precise orchestration. Your bones align to support gravity. Your muscles contract in coordinated patterns. Your joints stabilize just enough, while still allowing movement. And your blood subtly shifts. When you stand, gravity pulls blood downward. Without correction, less blood would reach your brain. But your body responds instantly. Blood vessels constrict slightly. Your heart adjusts its rhythm, and pressure is maintained. You remain steady, balanced. Hundreds, perhaps thousands. Your bones are not just structural. They are reservoirs. They hold calcium, phosphorus, and other essential minerals, releasing them into your bloodstream when needed and storing them again when levels rise. This balance is tightly regulated. Too much calcium in your blood, and your body adjusts. Too little, and it draws from your bones. A silent exchange, maintaining stability. Now consider your blood in a different way. It is not just moving. It is layered with information. Your blood type, for example, is determined by specific markers on the surface of your red blood cells. These markers influence compatibility, how your body recognizes what belongs and what does not. And here is something subtle. Your immune system is constantly scanning these markers, confirming over and over that everything is as it should be. Now, drifting deeper, there is something else your blood carries. Clotting factors. These are proteins that remain inactive until they are needed. The moment a blood vessel is damaged, a cascade begins. Signals are released. Platelets gather. Proteins activate in sequence, forming a clot. It happens rapidly, but with precision. Too slow, and bleeding would continue. Too fast, and clots could form unnecessarily. Your body maintains a delicate balance between flow and protection. Now imagine this. Even the smallest cut triggers this entire process. Coordinated response, unfolding in seconds. Now, as your breath remains steady, let your attention return to your muscles, because there is something quietly remarkable about their endurance. Your heart, for example, beats continuously without fatigue. Skeletal muscles, however, can tire, but even in fatigue, they adapt. When you use a muscle repeatedly, it becomes stronger, not instantly, but gradually through microscopic changes. Tiny fibers within the muscle experience stress, and in response they rebuild, slightly stronger than before. This is how your body learns, through physical experience. Now consider this. Even when you are resting, your muscles are not completely inactive. There is always a baseline level of tension called muscle tone. It helps maintain posture, keeps your body ready, prevents complete collapse. Without it, even sitting upright would be difficult. Now, something even more subtle, your tendons. These strong bands of connective tissue attach muscles to bones. They transmit force, allowing movement, but they also store energy. When you walk, for example, your tendons stretch slightly, storing elastic energy, and then release it, making movement more efficient. Your body recycles energy in ways you never feel. Now let your awareness drift into your joints again, because there is a quiet intelligence in how they limit movement. Each joint has a range, a boundary. Move too far, and structures resist. This prevents damage, protects stability, and within your joints, there are receptors that sense position and movement pressure. This sense is called proprioception. It allows you to know where your body is without looking. You can close your eyes and still touch your face, still move your hand precisely, because your body is aware of itself. Now imagine this. Every movement you make is guided by this internal sense. Without it, even simple actions would feel uncertain. Now, as your body continues its quiet balance, there is something else happening within your blood. Gas exchange. Oxygen enters your blood in the lungs, binds to hemoglobin, and is carried to tissues. Carbon dioxide, a waste product, travels back, to be released. This exchange happens continuously, effortlessly. And here is something fascinating. Your blood can change its affinity for oxygen, depending on your needs. In active tissues, where oxygen is required, it releases more. In resting areas, it holds onto it. A dynamic system, adjusting moment by moment. Now, drifting further into stillness, consider the sheer coordination of everything you've heard. Bones supporting, muscles moving, blood flowing, joints stabilizing, signals guiding, all at once, all the time, and never in conflict. Now imagine if even one part lost its timing, if signals were delayed, if responses were mismatched. Movement would falter, balance would shift, but your body maintains harmony, a continuous alignment of countless processes. Now, as this awareness settles, there is something quietly humbling about it. You are not just a structure, you are a process, a living system, constantly adjusting, constantly renewing, and yet it feels stable, like a single, continuous self. Now, as you rest or listen, your body continues, bones renewing their strength, blood carrying life, muscles maintaining balance, all without effort, all without demand. A silent architecture built not from stillness, but from motion, from change, from life flowing through form. And as you become aware of it, even slightly, it begins to feel calm, steady, reliable, like something you can trust, without ever needing to control. Chapter 4. The hidden intelligence of your organs. There is a quiet kind of intelligence within you, one that does not think in words, does not form sentences, does not announce itself. And yet, it understands exactly what to do, not once in a while, but constantly, every second of your life. Your organs are not passive structures. They are decision makers, responders, adaptive systems, each with its own role, its own rhythm, its own silent awareness of what must be done. Take your stomach, for example. It does more than simply hold food. The moment you see, smell, or even think about eating, your stomach begins to prepare. It releases gastric juices, acids strong enough to break down food into its most basic components. And yet, your stomach is protected. Its inner lining renews itself every few days, preventing those same acids from damaging it. A balance between power and protection. Now imagine this. Your stomach doesn't just digest, communicates. It sends signals to your brain, letting it know when you are full, when you are hungry, when something doesn't feel right. These signals are not always loud. Sometimes they are subtle. A slight shift in appetite, a quiet sense of satisfaction. Your body, speaking without words. Now let your awareness drift slightly further into your intestines. This is where digestion becomes something even more complex. Your small intestine alone stretches several meters, folded and layered in a way that maximizes surface area. If you could unfold it completely, it would cover a space nearly the size of a tennis court. And along its lining, millions of tiny structures absorb nutrients, vitamins, minerals, energy, passing them into your bloodstream. Nothing is wasted. Everything is processed. Now here is something quietly astonishing. Within your gut lives a vast community of microorganisms. Trillions of them. Bacteria, viruses, fungi, forming what is known as the gut microbiome. And they are not just passengers. They are participants. They help break down food. They produce essential vitamins. They influence your immune system and even your mood. There is a direct communication pathway between your gut and your brain, often called the gut-brain axis, which means what happens in your digestive system can affect how you feel, how you think, even how you respond to stress. You are not just thinking with your brain. In a way, your body is thinking as a whole. Now, as your breath remains calm, consider your lungs. Soft, spongy, constantly expanding and contracting. But inside them is an incredibly delicate structure. Tiny air sacs called alveoli. There are hundreds of millions of them, each one exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide with your blood. And here is something remarkable. If you could spread out all the alveoli in your lungs, they would cover an area roughly the size of a tennis court. All of that surface dedicated to a single purpose: breathing. Now, breathing feels simple. Inhale, exhale. But beneath that simplicity, your lungs are adjusting constantly. If you exercise, they deepen your breath. If you relax, they slow it down. If oxygen levels drop, they respond immediately. And all of this happens automatically. Now, drifting deeper, let your attention move to your pancreas. It is rarely thought about, rarely noticed, and yet it plays a critical role. Your pancreas produces enzymes that help digest food, but it also regulates blood sugar through hormones like insulin. Every time you eat, your blood sugar rises, and your pancreas responds, releasing insulin to help your cells absorb that sugar. Without this balance, your body would struggle to maintain energy. Too much sugar, and damage occurs. Too little, and function declines. So your pancreas maintains equilibrium, moment by moment. Now, consider your liver again, but from a different perspective. It is not just a filter. It is also a storage center. It stores glycogen, a form of glucose, which can be released when your body needs energy. It stores vitamins, processes fats. It regulates cholesterol, and perhaps most quietly, it detoxifies. Every substance that enters your body is examined, processed, and adjusted. Not dramatically, but continuously. Now, as your awareness settles, there is something else to notice. Your organs do not work alone. They communicate constantly. Your stomach signals your brain. Your brain signals your pancreas. Your liver adjusts based on what your intestines absorb. Your lungs respond to signals from your blood. It is a network, not a collection. Now imagine this. Even your thirst is regulated. When your body senses a slight imbalance in fluids, signals are sent. A feeling emerges, not urgent at first, just a quiet suggestion to drink. And when you do, balance is restored. Now, drifting further, there is something deeply calming about this. You do not need to manage every detail. You do not need to think about digestion or oxygen or blood sugar. Your body is already aware, already responding, already maintaining balance. Now consider something even more subtle. Your organs can adapt. If one kidney is lost, the other can compensate. If part of your liver is damaged, it can regenerate. If conditions change, your body adjusts. Not instantly, but steadily. Now, as your body continues its quiet work, there is something almost poetic in it. A system not controlled by thought, but by function. by response, by rhythm, each organ playing its part, each one aware, in its own way of what must be done, and all of it happening beneath your awareness, calm, steady, precise, like a quiet intelligence flowing through you. There is something deeply reassuring about the way your organs continue their work, without hesitation, without doubt. They do not second-guess. They do not pause. They respond instantly, precisely, as if guided by a quiet certainty. Now, let your awareness return gently to your heart, not as a symbol, but as an organ of remarkable sensitivity. Beyond its steady rhythm, your heart responds to your internal state in subtle ways. It adjusts its pace depending on your breathing, your posture, your emotions. When you are calm, its rhythm becomes more regular, more fluid. When you are stressed, it shifts, not randomly, but in response to signals from your nervous system. And here is something quietly fascinating. Your heart and brain are in constant communication. Signals travel in both directions. Your brain influences your heart, but your heart also sends information back. This exchange affects how you feel, how you perceive, even how clearly you think. Now, as your breathing slows, your heart follows, and a gentle coherence begins to form, a synchronization between systems. Now, drifting further inward, consider your spleen. It is often overlooked, rarely mentioned, and yet, it plays an important role in maintaining balance within your blood. Your spleen filters old or damaged red blood cells, removing them from circulation. It also stores blood, releasing it when your body needs it. And it supports your immune system, helping to detect and respond to potential threats, quietly, efficiently, without drawing attention. Now imagine this. Every second, countless cells in your body are reaching the end of their life, and your organs, including the spleen and liver, are responsible for clearing them, making space for new ones. A continuous cycle, endings and beginnings, happening simultaneously. Now, let your awareness move toward your gallbladder. Small, tucked beneath the liver, almost hidden. Its role is simple, but essential. It stores bile, a fluid produced by the liver, and releases it when needed to help digest fats. Without it, digestion would still occur, but less efficiently. This is how your body works, not through single points of failure, but through systems of support, layers of function reinforcing one another. Now, as your thoughts drift gently, consider your endocrine glands again, but from a deeper perspective. Each gland releases hormones, but these hormones do not act alone. They interact. They influence one another, creating a dynamic balance. For example, your adrenal glands release cortisol, a hormone associated with stress and alertness. But cortisol also affects your metabolism, your immune response, even your sleep patterns, and your body regulates it carefully. Too much, and imbalance occurs. Too little, and function declines. So your body adjusts constantly, finding equilibrium. Now imagine this. Even your thyroid, a small gland in your neck, plays a powerful role. It regulates your metabolic rate, how quickly your body uses energy. A slight change in its activity can influence how you feel, how warm you are, how energized, or how tired. And all of this happens beneath your awareness. Now, drifting deeper into stillness, there is something else quietly happening within your organs. They anticipate. Your body does not simply react. It prepares. Before you eat, digestive enzymes begin to increase. Before you wake, your body temperature rises slightly. Before you move, your muscles receive signals. This anticipation allows your body to function smoothly, without delay. Now consider this. Even your sense of hunger is not just about an empty stomach. It is influenced by hormones, by time, by habit. Your body learns patterns, and it adjusts accordingly. Now, as your awareness softens, there is something deeply calming in realizing this. You are not managing every detail. You are supported by systems that understand what you need. Now, let your attention move to something even more subtle. Fluid balance. Your body maintains a precise level of fluids within and outside your cells. Too much and swelling occurs. Too little and dehydration sets in. So your kidneys, your hormones, your blood vessels all work together to maintain this balance. A quiet regulation happening continuously. Now imagine this. Even your blood pressure is constantly adjusted. Tiny changes in vessel diameter, in heart rate, in fluid levels, all contribute to keeping it within a stable range. You do not feel these adjustments, but they are always there. Now, as your body continues its silent coordination, there is something almost meditative about it. Each organ aware in its own way, each one contributing without conflict. A system not driven by thought, but by harmony. Now, drifting gently, consider how your organs respond to rest. When you relax, your digestive system becomes more active. Your heart rate slows. Your breathing deepens. Your body shifts into a state of restoration. Prioritizes healing, repair, balance. And this is why rest feels so important. Not as an absence of activity, but as a different kind of activity. Now, as everything continues, there is one final thought to settle into. Your body does not require perfection. It requires balance. And it is constantly working to maintain that balance for you. Quietly, faithfully, without demand. A hidden intelligence moving through every organ, every system, every moment. And as you become aware of it, even slightly, there is a sense of ease, of trust, of knowing that beneath everything, your body understands exactly what to do. Chapter 5. The senses that quietly shape reality, without effort, without instruction. Your body is constantly gathering information. Not loudly, not all at once, but in a steady, flowing stream, shaping everything you experience. What you see, what you hear, what you feel, even what you believe is real. Your senses are not just tools. They are translators, interpreting the world and presenting it to you in a way that feels complete. But what you experience is not the world exactly as it is. It is your brain's version of it. Now, let your awareness rest gently on your vision. Feels immediate, clear, accurate. But your eyes do not actually see in the way it seems. Light enters your eyes, passing through the cornea, then the lens, which adjusts its shape to focus. This light is projected onto the retina, where specialized cells, rods and cones, convert it into electrical signals. These signals travel to your brain, and only then does sight truly begin. Your brain assembles the image, fills in gaps, adjusts colors, stabilizes motion, all in an instant. Now consider this. Your eyes are constantly moving, even when you think they are still. These tiny movements allow your brain to continuously refresh the image. Without them, your vision would begin to fade. Your world would blur into stillness, so your eyes never fully stop, even in rest. Now, something even more subtle. Your brain corrects your vision without you realizing it. The image that forms on your retina is actually upside down, but your brain flips it seamlessly so the world appears upright. You never notice the inversion, because your brain has already corrected it before it reaches your awareness. Now, drifting deeper, there is something else your vision depends on. Light is not constant. It changes throughout the day, and your eyes adjust. In bright light, your pupils constrict. In darkness, they expand, allowing more light in. This adjustment happens automatically, a quiet response to your environment. Now imagine this. In low light, your rods become more active, allowing you to see shapes and movement, but color fades. In bright light, your cones take over, allowing you to see detail and color. Your perception shifts, depending on conditions. Now, as your awareness softens, let your attention move to sound. Hearing feels effortless, but the process is delicate, precise. Sound waves enter your ear, traveling through the ear canal, vibrating your eardrum. These vibrations are amplified by tiny bones, and then passed into the inner ear, where fluid moves, and specialized cells convert those movements into signals. Your brain receives these signals and interprets them as sound, pitch, volume, direction, all determined by how these waves are processed. Now consider this. Your ears are always listening. Even when you are not paying attention, your brain filters sounds, deciding what matters. A familiar voice stands out. Background noise fades away. This filtering allows you to focus without being overwhelmed. Now imagine this. Even silence is not truly silent. Your ears can detect incredibly faint sounds, and sometimes, in complete quiet, your brain amplifies internal signals, creating a soft ringing or hum. A reminder that your sensory system is always active. Now, drifting further, let your awareness move to touch. Your skin, covered in millions of receptors, each one sensitive to different types of sensation, pressure, temperature, pain, vibration. These signals travel through your nerves to your brain, where they are interpreted. And here is something fascinating. Different parts of your body have different levels of sensitivity. Your fingertips are incredibly sensitive. Your back, less so. Your brain allocates more space to areas that require precision. Now consider this. Touch is not just physical. It is also emotional. A gentle touch can calm your nervous system, reduce stress, lower heart rate. Your body responds not just to the sensation, but to its meaning. Now, as your breath remains slow, let your attention drift to your sense of smell. Often overlooked, quiet, but deeply powerful. Your sense of smell is directly connected to the part of your brain involved in memory and emotion. This is why a single scent can bring back a vivid memory, place, a moment, a feeling, instantly. Now imagine this. You can detect thousands of different scents, even in tiny concentrations, and your brain identifies them almost immediately, without conscious effort. Now, something even more subtle, your sense of taste. It works closely with smell. Your taste buds detect basic flavors, sweet, salty, sour, bitter, umami. But most of what you perceive as flavor comes from smell. This is why food tastes different. When your nose is blocked, your senses are interconnected. Now, drifting deeper into this quiet awareness, there is something else to notice. Your senses do not operate independently. They combine. Your brain integrates information from all of them, creating a unified experience. What you see influences what you hear. What you feel influences what you perceive. It is not separate. It is a single blended reality. Now imagine this. Even your sense of balance is part of this system. Inside your inner ear, tiny structures detect movement and orientation. They tell your brain where your head is, how you are moving, whether you are stable. Without this sense, standing upright would be difficult. Now, as everything continues, your senses are constantly working, gathering, translating, shaping, all without effort, all without demand. And perhaps the most fascinating part is that what you experience feels complete, whole, real, even though it is a construction, a quiet interpretation of signals transformed into a world. As your awareness continues to settle, there is something gently profound about the way your senses fade when you stop focusing on them. The world does not disappear, but it softens. Edges blur, details become less important, and your brain begins to quiet its interpretation, allowing space for rest. Because your senses are not only designed to gather information, they are also designed to let go of it. Now, consider something subtle. Your brain is constantly adjusting how strongly you perceive sensations. This is called sensory adaptation. When you first enter a room, you may notice a smell. But after a few minutes, it fades. Not because it is gone, but because your brain has decided it is no longer important. The same happens with touch. The feeling of your clothes, the pressure of where you are sitting or lying. First, it is clear, but over time, it disappears from your awareness. Your brain filters it out, not to remove reality, but to simplify it. Now imagine this. If you were constantly aware of every sensation, every sound, every detail, it would be overwhelming. So your brain gently lowers the volume, allowing you to rest, even while your senses remain active. Now, drifting deeper into this quiet space, there is something else happening. Your perception of time begins to shift. When your senses are highly engaged, time feels faster, more filled. But when things become calm, repetitive, quiet, time stretches. Moments feel longer, more spacious. This is not because time itself has changed, but because your brain is processing less information. And so, it feels slower. Now, let your attention return briefly to sound, because there is something quietly fascinating about how your brain locates it. When you hear a sound, your brain compares the tiny differences in timing and intensity between your two ears. From this, it calculates direction, distance, movement, all in an instant, without effort. Now imagine this. Even in sleep, your brain continues to monitor sound. It remains aware, in a subtle way, of your environment. Not actively listening, but ready, prepared to respond if needed. Now, as your breath remains steady, there is something else to notice. Your senses influence your emotions. Soft light can feel calming. Gentle sounds can slow your heart rate. Warmth can create comfort. These are not random reactions. They are built into your nervous system. Your body responds to sensory input in ways that guide you toward balance. Now consider this. Your sense of touch can reduce stress hormones. Your sense of smell can trigger relaxation. Your sense of sound can influence your breathing. All of your senses are connected to your state of being. Now, drifting even deeper, there is something quietly powerful about your ability to imagine, because your brain can recreate sensory experiences without any external input. You can imagine a sound and almost hear it. Imagine a place and almost see it. Imagine warmth and feel it faintly. Your brain does not always distinguish sharply between real and imagined input, which means you can create calm from within. Now imagine this, even reading or listening to these words. Your brain is forming images, soft impressions, a sense of space, of stillness, and this is not forced. It is natural. Now, as your awareness continues to soften, there is something else happening. Your senses begin to withdraw slightly, not completely, but enough to allow your mind to drift. This is part of how sleep begins. External input becomes less important. Internal experience becomes more prominent. Your brain shifts its focus. Now consider this. In darkness, your visual system quiets. In silence, your auditory system softens. In stillness, your sense of movement fades. And as each sense becomes less dominant, your mind becomes lighter, less anchored, more free to drift. Now let your thoughts move gently, because there is something deeply calming about this process. You do not need to force yourself to relax. Your body is already guiding you, reducing input, lowering intensity, allowing space. Now imagine this. Even your awareness of your own body can fade slightly. The boundaries between you and your surroundings become less defined. Not in a confusing way, but in a peaceful one. A sense of blending, of softness. Now, as everything continues, your senses remain present, but quieter, gentler, like distant waves, rather than sharp signals. And in this quiet, your mind begins to rest, not by stopping, but by slowing, by releasing detail, by allowing the world to soften around you. And perhaps this is one of the most beautiful things about your senses. They do not just connect you to the world, they also know how to let you drift away from it, gradually, naturally, without effort, until what remains is calm, stillness, and a quiet sense of being. Chapter 6. The Chemistry of Emotions and Thought. Some of the most powerful experiences you have never make a sound. They don't move through your muscles. They don't appear in front of your eyes. And yet, they shape everything. Your emotions, your thoughts, your sense of meaning, and beneath all of them, there is something quiet, invisible, and deeply precise. Chemistry, not in a cold, mechanical sense, but in a fluid, ever-changing balance of signals moving through your brain and body. Now, consider this. A single thought is not just an idea. It is a pattern of activity. Neurons firing, connections forming, chemicals being released. Every moment of thinking is also a physical event. And yet, it feels intangible. Now, let your awareness rest gently on something simple. how you feel: calm, curious, maybe slightly tired, maybe deeply relaxed. Whatever is present, it is not random. It is influenced by chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. These tiny molecules move between neurons, carrying signals that shape your mood, your focus, your energy. One of them is serotonin, often associated with a sense of calm, of balance, of quiet well-being. It helps regulate mood, sleep, appetite. And what's interesting, a large portion of serotonin is actually produced in your gut, not just your brain, a reminder that your body and mind are deeply connected. Now consider dopamine, a neurotransmitter often linked to motivation, reward, anticipation. It is released when you experience something enjoyable or when you expect something positive. But dopamine is not just about pleasure. It is about movement, drive, the quiet push that keeps you going. Now imagine this: even the act of completing a small task can trigger a release of dopamine, creating a sense of satisfaction, a subtle reinforcement, encouraging repetition. Now, drifting deeper, there is something else. GABA, a neurotransmitter that has a calming effect on the brain. It reduces neural activity, helps quiet excessive stimulation, allows your mind to slow down. When GABA levels are balanced, you feel more relaxed, more at ease. And as you listen now, your brain may already be shifting gently in that direction. Now consider norepinephrine. Plays a role in alertness, attention, readiness. Not in an overwhelming way, but in a focused, controlled sense. It helps you respond to your environment, to stay aware when needed. But like all things, balance matters. Too much, and you may feel tense. Too little, and focus may fade. So your body adjusts constantly. Now, as your thoughts begin to soften, there is something deeper to notice. These chemicals do not act alone. They interact. They influence one another, creating a dynamic system rather than a fixed state. Your emotions are not static. They are fluid, shifting a moment by moment in response to both internal and external signals. Now imagine this: even your breathing can influence your brain chemistry. Cortisol helps you wake up, so your body regulates it carefully. Now consider oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone. It is released during moments of connection, trust, closeness. Can create a sense of warmth, of safety. And what's interesting, even simple actions like a kind interaction or a calm environment can influence its release. Now, drifting deeper into stillness, there is something quietly profound about all of this. Your emotions are not just reactions. They are signals, messages, guiding you, helping you interpret your experience. Now imagine this: even thoughts can influence your chemistry. A calming thought can reduce stress signals. A worrying thought can increase them. Your mind and body are in constant conversation. Now, as your awareness softens, there is something else to notice. Your brain is always seeking balance. If activity becomes too intense, calming systems engage. If things become too slow, activating systems respond. A continuous adjustment. Now consider this: even anticipation can change your chemistry. Thinking about something pleasant can create a subtle shift, a quiet sense of ease. Now, as everything continues, your body is not waiting for you to control it perfectly. It is already adjusting. already balancing, already guiding you gently toward equilibrium. Now imagine this, even now, as you listen, your brain is responding, chemicals shifting, signals adjusting, a quiet movement toward calm. And perhaps you don't need to do anything at all, because your body already knows how to settle, how to soften, how to rest. As your thoughts begin to slow, there is something almost imperceptible happening within you. A shift, not sudden, not dramatic, but gradual, like the dimming of a light, because your internal chemistry is never fixed. It is always adjusting, responding, finding balance again. Now consider something subtle. Your brain does not aim to keep you constantly happy. It aims to keep you stable, to move you back toward equilibrium, no matter where you begin. If your state becomes too heightened, calming systems begin to activate. If things become too low, energizing signals quietly increase. This constant correction is what allows you to return again and again to a place of steadiness. Now imagine this, even something as simple as your posture can influence your internal chemistry. A relaxed posture can signal safety. A tense posture can signal alertness, and your body responds accordingly. Now, let your awareness settle into your breathing again, because your breath is one of the few things that connects conscious and unconscious control. You can guide it, or you can leave it alone. And either way, it continues. But when you slow your breath, something shifts. Carbon dioxide levels adjust. Blood vessels respond. Your nervous system moves gently toward calm. And this is not imagined. It is chemical. Now, drifting deeper, there is something else quietly happening. Your brain is releasing less of certain activating chemicals and slightly more of calming ones. Not in a sudden change, but in a gradual shift. This is how relaxation unfolds, not as an event, but as a transition. Now consider this. Even your thoughts can become slower, not because you force them, but because the signals supporting rapid thinking begin to ease. Your mind follows your chemistry. Now imagine this. If you remain in this calm state long enough, your body begins to associate it with safety. And over time, it becomes easier to return here. This is how patterns form, not just in behavior, but in biology. Now, as your awareness softens further, there is something quietly powerful about repetition. When you experience calm, again and again, your brain strengthens the pathways associated with it, making it more familiar, more accessible. Now consider this. Even your expectations can shape your chemistry. If you expect something to be relaxing, your body may begin to respond before it even happens. A subtle anticipation guiding your internal state. Now, drifting even deeper, there is something else to notice. Your body does not distinguish sharply between external and internal signals. A calm environment can soothe you, but so can a calm thought, a quiet image, a gentle memory, because the same systems are involved. Now imagine this. Even now, your brain may be reducing activity in areas associated with stress, and increasing activity in areas associated with rest. A quiet rebalancing. Now, as everything continues, there is something deeply reassuring in this. You do not need to control every thought. You do not need to manage every feeling. Because beneath it all, your body is already working to bring you back to balance. Now, let your attention drift to something even more subtle. your internal rhythms. Hormones rise and fall throughout the day. Neurotransmitters fluctuate. Energy shifts, and your body adjusts to each of these cycles, even when you are not aware of them. Now consider this. Sleep itself is guided by chemistry. As evening approaches, your body begins to release melatonin, a hormone that signals rest. It does not force sleep, but it prepares you for it. Gently, gradually. Now imagine this. As melatonin increases, other systems begin to quiet. Body temperature drops slightly. Alertness fades. Your mind begins to drift. Now, as your awareness continues to soften, there is something almost effortless about this process. You do not need to chase sleep. You simply allow the chemistry to do its work. Now, drifting deeper still, there is something else quietly happening. Your brain is letting go of unnecessary signals, reducing noise, simplifying patterns. Calm begins to expand. Now consider this. Even your sense of time may feel different now, slower, less defined, because your brain is processing less urgency, less stimulation. Now imagine this. If you continue in this state, your body will naturally move further toward rest. Not because you force it, but because everything is already aligned. Now, as everything continues, there is a quiet trust you can settle into. Your chemistry is not working against you. It is working for you, always adjusting, always guiding, always moving toward balance. And as you become aware of that, even slightly, there is a sense of ease, a sense that you do not need to do more, because beneath every thought, every feeling, there is a system already taking care of you, calmly, steadily, without effort. Chapter 7. The body's invisible defenders, beneath everything you can feel, everything you can see. There is a quiet vigilance within you, a system that does not rest, does not drift, does not forget. It watches, it learns, protects. Your immune system is not loud. It does not announce its presence. And most of the time you never notice it at all. But every second, it is active, scanning your body, cell by cell, molecule by molecule, searching for anything that does not belong. Now imagine this. At any given moment, thousands of foreign particles may enter your body. Through the air you breathe, the surfaces you touch, the food you eat. Bacteria, viruses, microscopic organisms, invisible, but real. And yet, most of them never affect you, because your immune system is already responding. Now, let your awareness settle into this quiet process. The first line of defense is your skin, not just a covering, but a barrier, tightly packed cells, forming a protective wall. Slightly acidic, making it difficult for harmful organisms to survive, and constantly renewing, shedding potential threats along with dead skin. Now consider this. Even your tears contain enzymes that break down bacteria. Your saliva does the same. Your body is not just protected at the surface. It is actively defending itself in multiple ways. Now, drifting deeper, there is something else waiting. If a pathogen passes your outer defenses, your innate immune system responds. This is your body's immediate reaction. Fast, non-specific. Cells like macrophages move toward the threat, engulfing and breaking it down. They do not ask what it is. They simply respond. Now imagine this. These cells can detect patterns common to many harmful organisms. And the moment they recognize one, they act, releasing signals, calling for reinforcement. Now, as this unfolds, inflammation may occur, a slight swelling, a warmth, a change you might notice or not. This is your body increasing blood flow, allowing immune cells to reach the area more quickly. A focused response. Now, drifting further, there is something even more remarkable. Your adaptive immune system, unlike the innate response, this system learns. It remembers. Specialized cells called lymphocytes identify specific pathogens. And once they do, they create a memory, so that if the same pathogen appears again, your response is faster, more precise. Now consider this. This is the principle behind immunity. Your body becomes better prepared with each encounter, not through force, but through learning. Now imagine this. Even vaccines work by gently introducing your immune system to a harmless version, or a fragment of a pathogen, allowing your body to recognize it without becoming ill. A quiet preparation for the future. Now, as your awareness softens, there is something else to notice. Your immune system must be balanced. It must be strong enough to defend, but controlled enough to avoid attacking your own body. And most of the time, it achieves this balance. But it is constantly adjusting. Now, drifting deeper into this quiet vigilance, there is something else happening. Cells mobilize, defenses activate, all within moments, and yet, you may feel nothing at all. Now, let your attention rest gently, because there is something deeply calming in this. You are not unprotected. You are not vulnerable in the way it might seem. You are supported by a system that is always aware, always present. Now consider this. Even your fever, when it occurs, is not just a symptom. It is a response. Your body raising its temperature to create an environment less favorable for pathogens. A strategic adjustment. Now, drifting further, there is something else to notice. Your immune system communicates constantly with other systems, with your brain, with your hormones, with your digestive system, all working together. Now imagine this. Even stress can influence your immune response, not in a simple way, but in a complex interaction, which is why balance matters. Now, as your breath remains slow, there is a quiet reassurance here. You do not need to monitor every threat. You do not need to see what is happening, because your body is already aware, already responding, already protecting you in ways you cannot feel. Now, as everything continues, there is a sense of quiet strength, not forceful, not aggressive, but steady, persistent, a system that does not seek attention, but is always there, working in the background to keep you safe. As this quiet vigilance continues, there is something even more refined within your immune system. It does not simply attack. It identifies. It distinguishes with remarkable precision between what belongs and what does not. Now imagine this. Every cell in your body carries tiny markers on its surface, signals that say, "This is me." Your immune system reads these markers constantly, confirming identity, maintaining order. And when something unfamiliar appears, something without the correct signal, your defenses begin to move, not in chaos, but with purpose. Now, let your awareness drift into this process. Specialized cells called T cells patrol your body, examining other cells, one by one. If they detect something abnormal, they respond. Some T cells directly destroy infected cells. Others coordinate the response, signaling other immune cells to act. A layered defense. Now consider this. There are also B cells. They produce antibodies, proteins designed to bind to specific pathogens. Each antibody is shaped precisely to match a particular target, like a key fitting a lock. And once bound, they mark the pathogen, making it easier for other immune cells to find and eliminate it. Now imagine this. Your body can produce millions of different antibodies, each one unique, prepared for countless possibilities. Now, drifting deeper, there is something quietly fascinating about memory. When your immune system encounters a pathogen for the first time, the response may be slower, but afterward memory cells remain. And if the same pathogen returns, your body responds faster, stronger, more efficiently. Now consider this. This memory can last for years, sometimes even a lifetime. A record not written in words, but in cells. Now, as your awareness softens, there is something else happening. Your immune system is not always in attack mode. It also regulates, calms, prevents overreaction, because an unchecked response could harm your own body. So there are cells dedicated to balance, to restraint, ensuring that protection does not become damage. Now imagine this. Even when you are completely still, your immune system is moving. Cells traveling through your bloodstream, through your lymphatic system, quietly surveying. Now let your attention move to your lymph nodes. Small, often unnoticed, scattered throughout your body. They act as checkpoints, filtering lymph fluid, trapping pathogens, allowing immune cells to interact with them. If needed, they activate a response. Now consider this. When your body is fighting something, your lymph nodes may swell slightly, a sign of activity, of defense. Now, drifting further, there is something else quietly remarkable. Your body can recognize infected cells, not just foreign invaders. If a cell becomes compromised, your immune system can detect it and remove it, protecting the whole by sacrificing the part. Now imagine this. Even abnormal cells, those that could become harmful, are often identified and eliminated early, before they ever become noticeable. Now, as everything continues, there is a quiet coordination between your immune system and your microbiome. The beneficial bacteria within your body, especially in your gut, play a role in training your immune system, helping it learn what is safe and what is not. Now consider this. A balanced microbiome supports a balanced immune response. Another layer of quiet protection. Now, as your breath remains slow, there is something deeply reassuring in all of this. You are not alone within your own body. You are supported by systems that understand how to protect you. Now imagine this. Even after an infection has passed, your immune system continues to adjust, reducing activity, restoring balance, returning to a steady state. Now, drifting deeper into calm, there is something else to notice. Your immune system responds differently, depending on context. Not every threat triggers the same reaction. Your body evaluates, adjusts, chooses a flexible response, rather than a fixed one. Now consider this. Even your environment, your sleep, your nutrition, your stress levels, all influence your immune function. not in isolation, but as part of a whole. Now, as everything continues, there is a sense of quiet intelligence. Not conscious, not deliberate, but deeply effective. Now imagine this. Every second, your body is identifying, responding, adapting. And most of the time, you feel nothing at all, because everything is working exactly as it should. Now, as your awareness settles, there is something calming in realizing this. You do not need to watch every detail. You do not need to manage every process. Because beneath your awareness, there is a system always present, always attentive, always working to keep you safe. Not loudly, not urgently, but steadily, quietly, like a watchful presence that never sleeps. Chapter 8: Time, Aging, and Cellular Memory. There is something within you that keeps track of time, not by clocks, not by calendars, but through change. Slow, continuous, almost unnoticeable, and yet always moving forward. Your body does not experience time the way you think about it. It experiences it through transformation. Every moment your cells are changing, some dividing, some repairing, some reaching the end of their cycle and quietly fading away. You are not the same as you were a year ago, or even a few weeks ago, not physically, because your body is always renewing itself. Now imagine this. Your skin replaces itself roughly every few weeks. Your red blood cells, every few months. Even parts of your liver regenerate over time. You are constantly becoming new. And yet, you feel continuous, like a single, unbroken identity. Now, let your awareness settle into this quiet process, because beneath renewal, there is also aging, not as a sudden shift, but as a gradual accumulation. Tiny changes building over time. Now consider this. Every time a cell divides, it copies its DNA. And at the ends of your DNA are structures called telomeres. They act like protective caps. But each time a cell divides, these telomeres become slightly shorter. Not dramatically, but consistently. And over time, this shortening contributes to aging. Now imagine this. Your body has ways to slow this process. Certain cells produce an enzyme called telomerase, which helps maintain telomeres. But it is not active everywhere. So the process continues gently, steadily. Now, drifting deeper, there is something else quietly happening. Your cells accumulate tiny amounts of damage over time. From normal metabolism, from environmental exposure, from simple wear. And your body works constantly to repair this damage. But not perfectly. Small changes remain. Now consider this. Aging is not just about time passing. It is about the balance between damage and repair. Now, as your breath remains calm, there is something else to notice. Your body is remarkably efficient at maintaining function, even as it changes. You adapt. You adjust. Your systems compensate. Now imagine this. Even your bones, which are constantly renewing, may become slightly less dense over time. But your body adjusts movement, posture, balance to compensate. Now, drifting further into stillness, there is something deeply fascinating about cellular memory. Your cells remember in their own way, not through thoughts, but through patterns, through chemical marks on your DNA, known as epigenetic changes. These marks influence how your genes are expressed, which ones are active, which ones are quiet, and they can be influenced by your environment, your experiences, your lifestyle. Now consider this. Two cells with the same DNA can behave differently based on these epigenetic signals. Now imagine this. Your experiences leave traces, not just in your mind, but in your biology. Subtle shifts shaping how your body functions. Now, as your awareness softens, there is something else happening. Your internal clock, your circadian rhythm, continues to guide your body day after day, regulating sleep, hormones, temperature, and this rhythm can shift slightly over time. Now consider this. As you age, your sleep patterns may change, not randomly, but as part of your body's natural adjustment. Now, drifting deeper, there is something quietly remarkable about how your body prioritizes. Even as changes occur, essential functions are preserved. Your heart continues. Your lungs continue. Your brain adapts. Now imagine this. Even your perception of time can change as you age. Moments may feel faster or slower, depending on experience. Not because time itself changes, but because your brain processes it differently. Now, as everything continues, there is something deeply calming in this perspective. You are not static. You are a process, a flow. Now consider this. Even your cells communicate about time. They respond to signals that indicate when to grow, when to divide, when to rest. A coordinated rhythm across trillions of cells. Now imagine this. Every second, thousands of cells in your body reach the end of their life cycle, and thousands more begin. A quiet exchange. Now, drifting further, there is something else to notice. Your body does not resist change. It works with it, adapting, adjusting, finding new balance. Now, as your awareness settles, there is a sense of continuity, not because nothing changes, but because everything changes in harmony. And perhaps there is something comforting in that. As time continues to move, quietly, steadily, there is something deeper to notice about how your body remembers its own journey. Not in stories, not in images, but in patterns carried forward from one moment to the next. Your cells are constantly responding to the past, while adapting to the present. And in doing so, they create continuity. Now imagine this. Every experience you have, every meal, every breath, every period of rest or activity, leaves a subtle imprint on your body. Not in a dramatic way, but in small adjustments. A shift in metabolism, a change in sensitivity, a slight alteration in how certain genes are expressed. These changes are not fixed forever, but they can last, sometimes for days, sometimes for years. Now, let your awareness rest gently on this idea, because it means your body is not simply aging. It is learning, adapting over time. Now consider something quietly fascinating. Your cells have built-in systems to detect damage. When DNA is altered, repair mechanisms activate. Proteins move into place, correcting errors, restoring structure. And most of the time, this happens flawlessly. And over many years, these accumulate, but enough to gradually change how cells behave. Now imagine this. Some cells, when they reach a certain point, stop dividing altogether. They enter a state called senescence. They remain alive, but no longer replicate. And your body has ways to manage these cells to limit their influence. But again, Balance is everything. Now, drifting deeper into stillness, there is something else unfolding quietly. Your mitochondria, often described as the powerhouses of your cells. They produce energy, allowing your body to function. And like all parts of your body, they change over time. Their efficiency can shift, their output can vary, and your body adapts to these changes. Now consider this, even your energy levels are part of this larger process. They rise and fall, not just day to day, but over years. Now imagine this, your body is constantly recalibrating, adjusting how it uses energy based on what is available and what is needed. Now, as your breath remains slow and steady, there is something else to notice. Your connective tissues, the structures that hold everything together, your tendons, ligaments, and fascia. Over time, they can become slightly less elastic. But your body compensates, adjusting movement, maintaining function. Now, drifting further, there is something quietly remarkable about your brain in relation to time. While some processes may slow, others become more refined. Your brain becomes more efficient at recognizing patterns, at making decisions based on experience, at simplifying complex information. You gain a different kind of clarity. Now consider this, your memories are not just stored, they are reorganized over time, prioritized, simplified. The most meaningful aspects remain, while less important details fade. Now imagine this, your sense of self evolves in the same way, not fixed, but shaped by experience. Now, as everything continues, there is something deeply calming in realizing that change is not disruption. It is continuity in motion. Now let your awareness drift gently, because there is something else quietly happening. Your body is constantly renewing, even as it ages. Hair grows, skin replaces itself, blood cells are produced. Even now, as you rest, this renewal continues. Now consider this, you are both becoming older and becoming new at the same time. Now imagine this, each moment is a blend of what has been and what is emerging. Now, drifting deeper into calm, there is something else to notice. Your internal rhythms continue. Even as years pass, your body maintains cycles. Sleep and wake, hunger and fullness, activity and rest. These rhythms may shift slightly, but they remain. A steady pattern underlying change. Now consider this, even your perception of your own body can change over time, not because the body is unfamiliar, but because your awareness evolves with it. Now imagine this, your body is not something separate from time. It is time made visible, change made tangible. Now, as your awareness softens further, there is something quietly reassuring about this. You do not need to hold everything in place. You do not need to resist change, because your body is already working with time, not against it. Now, drifting gently, there is one final thought to settle into. Every moment, your body is balancing repair and renewal, memory and adaptation, stability and change. And it does this without effort, without struggle. Now, as everything continues, there is a sense of flow, of movement that does not need to be controlled. And perhaps that is where calm begins. Not in stopping time, but in allowing it to move gently through you. Chapter 9. Sleep, Dreams, and the Night Within. As the day slowly fades, something within you begins to change. Not all at once, not in a way you can easily point to, but gradually, like light dimming at the end of evening. Your body begins to prepare for sleep long before you actually lie down. Hours earlier, subtle signals begin. Your internal clock shifts. Your temperature lowers slightly. Your alertness softens. And a quiet chemical messenger, melatonin, begins to rise, not forcing you to sleep, but inviting you. Now imagine this. Sleep is not a single state. It is a journey, a cycle that your body moves through again and again throughout the night, each cycle lasting roughly 90 minutes. And within each one, there are stages. Now, let your awareness drift into the first stage, the moment when wakefulness begins to dissolve. This is known as light sleep. Your muscles relax, your breathing slows, your thoughts become less structured, more fluid. And sometimes, you may experience a sudden sensation like falling or a brief twitch, a hypnic jerk, a small reminder that your body is transitioning. Now, drifting deeper, you enter a slightly deeper stage of sleep. Your awareness of the outside world fades further. Your heart rate slows, your body temperature drops, and your brain waves continue to slow. Now imagine this. At this stage, it becomes harder to wake you, but your brain is still active, organizing, processing. Now, as you move even deeper, you enter slow wave sleep, the deepest stage. This is where your body does some of its most important work. Repair, restoration, growth. Your muscles recover. Your immune system strengthens. Your energy is replenished. And your brain waves become slow, powerful, steady. Now consider this. If you are awakened from this stage, you may feel disoriented because your body is deeply immersed in rest. Now, drifting further, there is another stage, one that feels almost mysterious, rapid eye movement sleep, or REM. This is where dreaming becomes vivid. Your brain activity increases, almost to waking levels. But your body remains still. Your muscles are temporarily relaxed, preventing movement. Now imagine this. During REM sleep, your brain creates entire worlds. Images, sounds, emotions, experiences that can feel incredibly real. And yet, they are generated entirely from within. Now consider this. Dreams are not random. They are influenced by your memories, your emotions, your experiences. Your brain is processing, integrating, organizing. Now, as your awareness softens, there is something quietly fascinating about how your brain moves through these stages. Not in a straight line, but in cycles. Light sleep, deeper sleep, REM, and back again, several times throughout the night. Now imagine this. Each cycle serves a purpose. Deep sleep restores your body. REM sleep processes your mind. Light sleep transitions between them. Now, drifting deeper into calm, there is something else to notice. Your brain remains active, even while you sleep. Not in the same way as when you are awake, but in a way that is purposeful. Now consider this. During sleep, your brain strengthens certain connections and weakens others, helping you learn, helping you remember, helping you adapt. Now imagine this. Even things you practiced during the day can be reinforced while you sleep. Your brain rehearses, refines. Now, as your breath remains steady, there is something else quietly happening. Your body reduces sensory input. External sounds become less important. Visual input fades. Your awareness turns inward. Now consider this. Sleep is not just rest. It is a state of active maintenance. A time when your body focuses on repair and your mind focuses on integration. Now imagine this. Without sleep, these processes would be disrupted. Balance would shift. Function would decline, which is why your body gently guides you toward it. Now, drifting further, there is something deeply calming in this. You do not need to force sleep. You do not need to chase it, because your body already knows the path. Now consider this. Even now, as you listen, your mind may begin to drift, thoughts becoming softer, less defined. And that is not something to resist. It is part of the process. Now imagine this. Each word, each pause, each quiet moment, guiding you gently towards stillness. Now, as everything continues, there is a sense of slowing, of easing, of letting go, and perhaps that is where sleep begins. As the night deepens, and your body settles further into rest, there is something quietly extraordinary about the way your mind begins to unfold. Not in a straight line, not in clear, structured thought, but in fragments, in impressions, in scenes that seem to appear without effort. Dreams do not arrive all at once. They emerge gently from the fading edges of waking thought. At first, they may feel like drifting ideas loosely connected, almost like imagination. But as your brain moves deeper into REM sleep, these fragments begin to organize. Images sharpen, sequences form, and suddenly, you are not just thinking, you are experiencing. Now imagine this. In a dream, your brain creates a complete sensory world. You can see, hear, feel, move, and often you accept it completely, even when it doesn't follow logic, even when it shifts suddenly, because during dreaming, the part of your brain responsible for critical reasoning becomes less active, while emotional and visual regions become more engaged. Now consider this. Time in dreams does not behave the way it does when you are awake. Moments can stretch, events can shift rapidly, and yet, it feels natural, because your brain is not measuring time in the same way. Now, drifting deeper into this quiet awareness, there is something else happening. Your brain is processing emotion. Experiences from your day may be revisited, reshaped, softened. Not always directly, sometimes through symbols, through stories, through impressions. Now imagine this, a conversation you had, a thought you carried, a feeling you didn't fully process. All of it can reappear in altered form. And through this, your brain finds resolution. Now consider this. Dreaming is not just imagination. It is integration, a way for your mind to organize what it has experienced. Now, as your breath remains slow and steady, there is something else to notice. Your body remains still. During REM sleep, your muscles are temporarily relaxed, almost completely. This prevents you from physically acting out your dreams. A quiet safeguard. Now imagine this. Even though your body is still, your brain is active, highly active, in some ways, as active as when you are awake. Now, drifting further, there is something quietly fascinating about how dreams fade. When you wake, they often dissolve quickly. Details slip away. Images blur. and within minutes, much of the dream may be gone. This is because the brain systems responsible for storing long-term memories are less active during dreaming. Now consider this: even though dreams may fade, their effects can remain. A sense of calm, a lingering emotion, a subtle shift in perspective. Now imagine this: your brain has already done its work, even if you don't remember the process. Now, as your awareness softens, there is something else quietly happening throughout the night. Your body continues its cycles, moving between stages, adjusting, balancing, each cycle slightly different from the last. Now consider this: early in the night, deep sleep is more prominent. Later, REM sleep becomes longer. Your body follows a rhythm. Now imagine this: by morning, your brain has processed, repaired, or reorganized, preparing you for another day. Now, drifting deeper into calm, there is something else to notice. Your breathing during sleep becomes slower, more regular. Your heart rate decreases. Your body temperature drops slightly. All signs of a system in restoration. Now consider this: even your immune system becomes more active during sleep, strengthening, responding, preparing. Now imagine this: sleep is not an absence. It is a state of quiet activity. Now, as everything continues, there is a gentle transition from wakefulness to rest, from activity to stillness, and your body knows exactly how to move through it. Now consider this: you do not need to guide every step. You do not need to think your way into sleep, because the process is already unfolding. Now imagine this: each breath a little slower, each thought a little softer, each moment a little quieter. Now, drifting even further, there is something deeply calming about surrendering to this, not as giving up control, but as allowing what is already happening. Now, as the night within you continues, there is a sense of ease, of release, of quiet movement toward rest. And perhaps that is all that is needed. Chapter 10. The strange, subtle mysteries of being human. There are aspects of your body that remain quietly mysterious, not because they are hidden, but because they are so familiar that you rarely pause to question them. Simple things, subtle things, experiences that feel ordinary, but are, in truth, extraordinary. Now, consider something as effortless as blinking. You do it without thinking, roughly 15 to 20 times every minute, thousands of times each day, and each blink spreads a thin layer of moisture across your eyes, keeping them protected, keeping your vision clear. But here is something quietly fascinating. When you blink, your brain briefly suppresses visual input. You are, for a fraction of a second, not seeing. And yet, you never notice the interruption, because your brain fills the gap seamlessly. Now imagine this: your awareness is continuous, even when the input is not. Now, drifting deeper, consider your sense of ownership over your body. Feels natural, obvious, but it is constructed. Your brain integrates signals from your senses, from your muscles, from your internal state, and creates a sense of "this is me." And under certain conditions, this sense can shift. Experiments have shown that when visual and tactile signals are altered, people can briefly feel that an external object is part of their body. A reminder that even something as fundamental as self is an experience your brain creates. Now, as your awareness softens, there is something else to notice. Your body has rhythms within rhythms. Your heart beats, your lungs breathe, but there are also smaller cycles. Your stomach contracts in waves. Your brain moves through patterns. Your hormones rise and fall, all layered together in a quiet synchronization. Now consider this. Even your attention moves in rhythms. You cannot focus continuously without variation. Your brain naturally shifts between periods of focus and brief moments of rest. Now imagine this. These shifts happen even when you don't notice them. Now, drifting further, there is something quietly remarkable about your perception of color. Color does not exist in the world in the way it seems. It is created by your brain in response to different wavelengths of light. Your eyes detect the wavelengths, but your brain interprets them as color, which means color is an experience, not a property. Now consider this. Different species perceive color differently. Some see ultraviolet. Some see fewer colors. Your experience is one version among many. Now imagine this. Even your sense of taste can change depending on context. The same food can taste different based on temperature, expectation, environment. Your perception is flexible. Now, as your breath remains steady, there is something else to notice. Your body can detect internal states in subtle ways. This is called interoception, the sense of what is happening inside you. Your heartbeat, your hunger, your breathing. Often you are not consciously aware of it, but it shapes how you feel. Now consider this. A slight change in your internal state can influence your emotions without any external cause. Now imagine this. Your body is constantly communicating with your mind through these signals. Now, drifting deeper, there is something quietly fascinating about your sense of agency. The feeling that you are choosing your actions. And while you do make decisions, the process begins before you become aware of it. Your brain prepares, initiates, and then your awareness follows. A seamless experience that feels like a single moment. Now consider this. Even your perception of effort can be influenced. If something feels difficult, your brain may increase the sense of effort. If it feels easy, it reduces it. Now imagine this. Your experience is shaped not just by what happens, but by how your brain interprets it. Now, as your awareness softens further, there is something else to notice. Your body is constantly predicting, anticipating, adjusting before events occur. This is why catching an object feels natural, why walking feels smooth. Your brain is always one step ahead. Now consider this. Even your sense of familiarity is a prediction. Your brain comparing current input with past experience. Now imagine this. When something feels unfamiliar, your brain pays more attention. When it feels familiar, it relaxes. Now, drifting gently, there is something deeply calming in realizing this. You are not experiencing the world directly. You are experiencing a version carefully constructed for clarity, for balance, for survival. Now, as everything continues, there is a sense of quiet wonder. Not overwhelming, not intense, but subtle. The kind that unfolds slowly as you notice what has always been there. And perhaps that is where the mystery lies. Not in what is hidden, but in what is always present, yet rarely seen. There is a quiet stillness that emerges when you begin to notice the smallest things. Not the obvious movements, not the loud signals, but the subtle experiences that shape everything without ever demanding attention. Now, consider something as simple as your sense of balance. At this moment, you are likely still, perhaps sitting or lying down, and yet your body is continuously adjusting. Tiny shifts in muscle tension, minute corrections in posture, all guided by signals from your inner ear, your muscles, your joints. You are never completely still. You are constantly balancing. Now imagine this. Even the slightest tilt of your head is detected instantly, and your body responds before you are aware of it. Now, drifting deeper, there is something else quietly happening. Your sense of location in space. You always know where you are, not just in a room, but within your own body, where your hands are, where your feet are, even with your eyes closed. This awareness is continuous, effortless, and almost invisible until you notice it. Now consider this. Without this sense, even simple movements would feel uncertain. Now imagine this. Every step you take, every movement you make, is guided by this quiet awareness. Now, as your breath remains slow, there is something else to notice. Your body produces subtle signals all the time. Tiny sensations, small shifts, and your brain decides which ones to bring into focus and which to leave in the background. Now consider this. You can suddenly become aware of your breathing just by noticing it, or your heartbeat, or the feeling of your hands. These signals were always there. Your awareness simply moved toward them. Now, drifting further, there is something quietly fascinating about how your brain creates continuity. Even when information is missing or incomplete, it fills the gaps, creating a smooth experience. Now imagine this. When you move your eyes, your brain stabilizes the image, so the world does not appear to jump, even though your eyes are moving constantly. Now, as your awareness softens, there is something else to notice. Your sense of effort and ease. Some actions feel automatic. Others feel deliberate. And this is not just about the action itself, but about how familiar it is. Now consider this. The more you repeat something, the less effort it feels, because your brain has optimized the process. Now imagine this. Your body is always learning, always refining, always becoming more efficient. Now, drifting deeper into calm, there is something quietly profound about your ability to shift attention. You can focus, or you can let your mind wander, and both are natural. Now consider this. When your mind wanders, it is not idle. It is exploring, connecting, processing. Now imagine this. Even in moments of stillness, your mind is active in a gentle way. Now, as everything continues, there is something deeply calming about allowing this. Not forcing focus, not resisting drift, but letting your awareness move naturally. Now, drifting further, there is something else to notice. Your sense of reality feels stable, consistent, but it is recreated moment by moment. Your brain updates it continuously, based on new information. Now consider this. Even your sense of time passing is constructed, not measured directly, but felt. Now imagine this. Moments can stretch or compress, depending on your state. Now, as your awareness becomes even softer, there is something else quietly present. A sense of being, not tied to thought, not tied to sensation, but simply there. Now consider this. Even when your thoughts slow or fade, this sense remains. Now imagine this. It is the quiet background to every experience. Now drifting gently, there is something deeply peaceful about resting in this. Not needing to analyze, not needing to understand everything, but simply noticing. Now, as everything continues, there is a sense of completion, not as an ending, but as a settling. Now consider this. Your body continues. Your breath continues. Your mind continues. All without effort. Now imagine this. You do not need to hold it all together, because it is already held. Now, as this final awareness settles, there is nothing more to do, nothing more to follow, only a quiet presence, unfolding a moment by moment. And in that presence, there is calm, there is stillness, there is rest.